Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going up to Salida because, and I have the truck connected to the trailer because I'm picking up a diesel truck. But for some reason I was messaging the guy and he said just come pick it up for free. So I'm going up there with you know, the hope that I'm going to get it, but there's also the possibility that I'm not. So let's leave now. It's a 2-hour drive each way and find out if we're going to get this diesel truck. Got up to Salida, pulling into the guy's driveway. Pretty long driveway, but we'll check this diesel truck out and see what we're working with. Just loaded her up. Now we're gonna make the long 2-hour drive back to Pueblo, but it has a bunch of sinister diesel parts, so we'll figure out. He said it has a newer reman engine in it. It just had an issue with the oil cooler, so the injectors sound like they're fine, but I guess we'll see what happens when we get home. Try to get her to run. The thing that's good about coming up here every time is the view. So just got home and unloaded or unhooked the trailer from the truck. I love that this trailer has not given me any problems since I redecked it, rewired it. It is just a trooper. So I'm really happy. Whew, I'm out of breath. So I'm really happy because this came with a bunch of extra parts. Let's look at the spoils that we got. Oh, I just broke them all. So it came with all the parts. I'm pretty sure all the parts to fix it. So it has a bulletproof EGR cooler, as well as an EGR, not an EGR, but a coolant filter kit, and a bunch of other stuff to fix it. It has a new new oil cooler, all the gaskets for the high pressure oil pump. It has all the parts, the headlights, to put it back together. And I mean, it needs to be cleaned up. It has a few spots where there's some rust. Probably put some different wheels on here. These, they just have wheel covers. But other than that, I mean, for a free diesel truck, I mean, this is an 08 ambulance. It probably has the higher amp alternator. It also probably, well, I guess he said the lights work. He said a bunch of stuff works, but these things go for around, you know, 7 to 10 grand, but this has quite a bit more miles. But he did say it had a reman engine in it at, I don't know, like 20,000 miles ago, because he was going to turn this into a camper. And I guess he did drive it across the country a few times until it had a oil cooler issue, and then he had a mechanic come. The mechanic pretty much just took it apart, and then from there it just sat because he never came back to put it back together, and the guy didn't know where anything went. So pretty much tomorrow I'm gonna pull the intake manifold and start tearing some of this stuff down. I need to spend my time wisely because I want to clean up the intake manifold, but I also need to paint the door on the charger. So I'm not gonna take time away from working on the charger, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to get this thing and start doing some stuff, get it back running and driving, maybe put some cooler wheels on it, find some on Facebook Marketplace. This is where I found this, and just kind of go from there. Just pulled the intake manifold. I'm gonna clean it up. Also the EGR cooler. So it doesn't look bad, but it had water in it, which this was sitting in his shop. So I don't really think that's, it may be a concern, but probably not. But I have, yeah, the intake manifold off. I need to pull this whole assembly right here. The fuel filter housing is actually removed. I removed that as well to get the intake manifold off. I also had to remove this fuel line that goes up there. It's a hard line, so I'll probably maybe replace that too. I don't think that'll be too expensive. It kind of looks like when they're trying to get it apart, it pretty much just kind of got bent a little bit. So may end up replacing that. I may actually just end up getting that that fuel line kit where it connects all the front and the back of the heads. But what I'm going to do now, another issue is the oil filter housing on these is down by the bottom of the engine and it's not hooked up. Not hooked up, but I want to see how the balance on this thing sounds, so I want to crank it up. I'm probably just going to check the engine oil really quick, but I don't plan on starting it. So let's kind of go from there, and then I'll have to remove that oil filter housing because it kind of looks like it got damaged. And then I'm going to cover all these holes up so nothing blows in there for right now. And then I need to go get some brake cleaner to clean all this nasty grease. So let's try this really quick. It's going to leak fuel and probably oil everywhere, but yeah, leaking quite a bit of fuel. For some reason, what gear is it in? Making fuel everywhere. Yeah, I need to figure out why it's not cranking, but yeah, I don't want to leak all this fuel. Now that I have the intake manifold off, what I'm going to do is pull the cover off the high pressure oil pump. I have an update kit. So this is an 08, so it should have all the new updated parts, but it is a 6 liter. It is really good to replace that anyway. Then I can replace that seal, get this thing all sealed back up. I most likely am going to clean all that as well, just so it's not as grimy. I'm probably going to clean a lot of this up because it just looks like the turbo was leaking or something was leaking, and it'll just be nice to have it all cleaned up. I'm going to do the same thing, the intake manifold. After I get all this stuff ready to put back together, it's pretty much got everything cleaned up in the valley. I got the old oil cooler out with the whole assembly. The new screen is actually in there now, but the old one had a tear in this section of the screen. So you can kind of see it right there. Let me zoom in. It's kind of cold out, but where's it at? Where? Oh yeah, right there you can see where it's a little bit darker. It just kind of is pushed in. So what I'm going to do is actually clean all of this stuff up right here, and the intake manifold, as well as the elbow, and some other things. I need to Scotch-Brite this area right here. I'm going to cover it up with a rag though for right now, because it'll probably take a couple days to get this stuff cleaned up, and then I could put it all back together. So I think what happened with this, another issue that I saw was, let's see. So another issue I saw was the IPR. It's a newer version, but you can see there's a bunch of debris in the screen, which isn't that big of a deal. It just really needs to be cleaned up, but the sensor also tested bad. So I'm thinking what happened with this was the IPR went out, and then the guy ordered all the parts, the oil cooler, because he thought the oil cooler was bad, which it could maybe have been, but I really don't think so. So yeah, I'm gonna put all that new stuff in. I don't have another IPR, so I'll have to order one of those from Ford. They may have one in stock, but it will take a couple days to get those manifolds, that manifold cleaned up, all the covers and everything cleaned up, so I can put it back together. So I'll just put some rags and everything over the engine so nothing gets in it. But yeah, I'm really happy so far. Cranked it over, sounds great. I did get an oil filter, but I'm going to clean those lines up as well, so I'll probably pull that assembly off and then just kind of go from there. Try to get this thing cleaned up because it is pretty grimy looking. What do you think of my new van? Everybody loves your reactions.
What?
Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because you hate all my projects.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a total disaster. Look at that.
But the Hell Cow is a mess too.
Oh my
Look at it now.
God. It doesn't look like a vehicle. It looks like a mess.
What do you think when it's? What do you think it's gonna look like when it's done?
I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it when it's done.
Everything done that I could do today with the van. So now what I'm gonna do in the next video is get this thing running. So I could possibly get it running in this video, but I really wanna clean all those parts up. I'm gonna take them to get hot tanked tomorrow. So as you can see, the intake manifold, this side doesn't look too bad. I think what was going on was the turbo was leaking and just leaking fluid all over, or oil all over the engine, the valve covers. Maybe the valve covers might have been leaking too. I'll probably put new gaskets in them and maybe new gaskets in the mid covers, but we'll see about that, because if I do that, I'll put ARP head bolts in it. So another thing I'm gonna do, most likely do, is put new glow plugs in it, because it's really nice not to have to worry about your glow plugs. And I'll probably do the new glow plug harnesses as well as the injector harnesses. Something I always do when I fix 6 liters is replace those harnesses, because they're very old and they're not that expensive. So after we get all this stuff cleaned up, I'm contemplating powder coating it, but I'm not exactly sure yet. We'll see what happens, but all this stuff just looks really grimy. I'm gonna end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click that subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. I have some surprises with this van coming up. I am gonna get another truck that comes with a bunch of 4-wheel drive stuff that I need, a lift kit, wheels, just a bunch of stuff, because this is a 2-wheel drive, but I'm gonna convert it to a 4-wheel drive, as well as do a bunch of other stuff, convert all the back to a camper, and just really get this thing going. So make sure to click the subscribe button, share with your friends. As always, see you guys next time.